What's up, guys? Buckle up because you're about to enjoy an excellent Snaps game preview where we tell you everything you need to know about this weekend's game and probably some stuff that you didn't. Enjoy. Let's start, Aaron. And let's be clear, this entire Final Four is just full of blue bloods. But
Yes.
let's start with a matchup that is as kind of insane as you could possibly fathom in terms of brand versus brand, and that is the Cotton Bowl going down in Jerry World, AT&T Stadium, Texas versus Ohio State. Two teams that are top 5 all time in wins. Two teams that, to bring it to the present, started the year in the top 4. And look at them now. Here they are in the Final Four. So two teams that are traditionally great, two teams that were thought to be great this season, two teams that have been great, and now these two great teams square up with one another. I found something very interesting in a piece in the Athletic, though, Aaron. Despite the fact that these are such legendary brands, they've only played each other 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a home and home in 05 and 06. And this kind of funny. Vince Young, so they're really good every time they play. Vince Young beat them in Columbus, then went on to win the Natty. The following season, Ohio State beats them in Austin, then goes on to lose in the Natty. And then they play in the 08 Fiesta Bowl, and it's a great game, major bowl game. Colt McCoy throws a game-winning touchdown with 16 seconds left. So here's to hoping that history can once again repeat itself, and we'll get a good game here at the end of the day. What's your initial pass at Buckeyes versus Longhorns here?
Oh, and second, I think they play each other next year to start the season off.
They do. First game of the season.
First game of the season.
Look, I got to be clear. My third eye is fully open, guys. And Bob Stradamus making his call here. Ohio State wins this game. Quinn Ewers transfers. They go on to win the national championship. Quinn Ewers transfers. He goes to Ohio State, and then they win a back-to-back national championship, and it starts by beating Texas in Columbus.
Yes, I think these are two of the best rosters. There's no doubt about it. I think that's the first thing. Like, these rosters are elite. So we're talking about two. I mean, I would say if you want to go from like top to bottom of star power, this is as good as it can get this year, in my opinion. At times this season, I've thought Ohio State was the best team in America. At times this season, I've thought that Texas was the best team in America. That's just how good they are. And when they show us when they're at their best, they can beat anyone. Now they kind of face each other in this matchup, which is going to be terrific here in the Cotton Bowl. Who's playing the best, with the most confidence, with the most swagger, the least amount of holes heading into this game? And I think the big advantage is Ohio State. I think Texas has maybe a couple more flaws that we didn't think they would have heading into the season. Now they've shown up. Running backs, we knew were going to be a problem. They got banged up in the preseason. Wisner's good, but inconsistent there at the run game. Quinn, inconsistent there at the quarterback position. Defense is still elite, even though they've been a little bit leaky the past 2 games. I still think that's a really talented defense on all 3 levels, but they've shown us a little bit of ability to be gone on that side. Now you look at Ohio State, and no weakness has shown in the past 2 weeks. We thought offensive line was going to be the reason why Ohio State did not win a national championship, the reason why they weren't going to beat Michigan or beat Oregon or win the Big 12, and that showed its head up. But all of a sudden, it looks like the script is flipped. They're playing better. The passing game is incredible. There's not a lot of holes that I can poke right now for Ohio State and the Buckeyes. So when it comes to confidence, which is a big part of this game of football, Ohio State walks into this game feeling like we're invincible, where I guarantee as a Texas player, you're looking around the room a little bit saying, hey, we're not playing as well as maybe we can or could, and we better bring our A game, but we still know if we can do that right now with the players we have.
So there's a lot of great questions going on and comments going on in the chat right now, and a lot of like kind of conversational points that I want to get into. But Dobby here says, is Howard better than Ewers? And I want to talk about Will Howard for a minute, Aaron, because as I'm doing my notes for today's show, I end up writing myself, at the end of the day, is Will Howard the biggest key to the entirety of the playoff? And I would say this, despite the kind of varied takes on Howard this season, I want to ask you a question, or say agree or disagree.
Yep.
Will Howard is clearly the best quarterback left in the playoff.
Oh, he's 100% the best quarterback in the playoff. When I did my rankings heading into the playoffs, he was number 2 behind Dylan Gabriel. And then we saw what happened a week ago when those two matched up. And Dylan played fine, but Dylan,
I mean,
Howard
I
is
think Dylan played well considering he did not have the support of a Howard around him. Like it was a
what do you
rough.
mean? He has plenty of support around him. It's just their
I mean,
offense
in
isn't
terms
built
of
the
how no,
same.
I mean, in terms of how the game was flowing, it felt like Gabriel was running for his life the entire night and having to create kind of against a team that was kicking their ass. Where Howard had run support. Well, he kind of opened up the run, but whatever.
And that's going to be a problem for Texas too, is that support. But in this game and what's left, I think Will Howard is by far the best quarterback left in the college football playoffs. And I like Drew. I think Drew would probably be my number 2. I think
Quinn would be number 3. What a fall for Quinn.
No, I know. I mean, this even goes, like I said, these are my rankings heading into the playoffs. Drew is ahead of Quinn. He's just playing better right now. And I do think the dual threat ability of both those guys, of Will Howard and Drew Aller, and not like saying like neither guy is like a 4-5, 4-6 guy, but they both have shown the ability to run the football when needed. And Quinn did a little bit last week versus Arizona State, but I still think overall, like that is not even close to, you're not worried about Quinn running the football at all. It is not a strength.
If Quinn wants to do that, like you'll take that. If your coverage is forcing Quinn to pick it up with his legs, I think over the course of a 60-minute game, that works out in your favor.
Yeah. So I love Will Howard. I think Will may be the number 3 quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. That's how well he's played this season. He has elevated his game. Now he's had 2 bad games all year. 2. Yeah. Other than that, I've been very impressed with him.
So if we look at the 2 playoff games that Will Howard has had, it's actually kind of insane. 82% completion in game 1, 24-29, 311, 10.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Then last week, 17-26, 319, 12 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So he is entering red hot. And one of the main reasons why is because Jeremiah Smith. Dan Orlovsky said something that was pretty shocking to me. Now, granted, I don't know, maybe this isn't like 100% true, but it's also not true. He said Jeremiah Smith would be the number 1 overall pick today if he was available to go to the NFL. I mean, really stop and think about that for a second. You're talking about an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, a true freshman. And he's saying that if he was eligible, which he's not because he's too young, but if you could draft him, that he would be the number 1 overall pick. And again, his numbers through 2 playoff games, 13 catches, 290 yards, 4 touchdowns. And here we arrive at another interesting matchup, Aaron, because Texas's secondary for the entirety of the year looked like the best in the entire country, or arguably the best. And I know talent-wise, they still are. Their safety room's incredible. That said, as you pointed out, Clemson, those freshman wide receivers, having some success. No real problems with how they played against Arizona State, but it's like, okay, if Clemson and Klubnik got you, what are Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka going to be able to do? Like, do you think this Texas secondary can look as elite as they did all year long?
No, I don't think they will. I think this passing tech it's because it's not just a one-man band with Jeremiah. I think that's the problem with any defense. I mean, what they can do, and it goes to the legs of Will Howard. You have to worry about Will Howard running it. You have to worry about Quinshawn and Henderson running the football. And both those guys had incredible games last week. You have to worry about Egbuka and Tate, and just the list goes on and on and on. So this isn't an offense you're like, oh, we just take Penn State, for example. You take away the tight end, you feel pretty good about, okay, the rest of the weapons can't necessarily win you the football game. And but Penn State can still lean on the run game a little bit. They can lean on Drew and his ability to kind of create at times. But if you can slow down Warren, you feel pretty good that you can slow down that offense.
There's nobody through the air that's going to kill you.
Yeah. We're like, you slow down. If you want to put 2 guys and bracket Jeremiah, then Egbuka is going to get one-on-one. You can't tell me you feel good if you're going to leave Egbuka one-on-one. So I think the offense.
And then you have 2 running backs that are.
Well, even if you do cover them, go back last week. The throws that Will Howard were making were elite placement of the football. The touchdown to Egbuka, some of the throws and spots to Jeremiah Smith, where Jeremiah's getting double covered, and he's still putting in a spot knowing that, hey, this guy is Megatron. I throw it high, he's going to go up there and snag it. They're just they're playing in a different league at the moment, just a completely different league.
So that's kind of, so again, obviously, I think on the surface, we like Ohio State here. Because since that Michigan loss, this seems like an Ohio State team that has been revitalized, right? They had to suffer this very low moment to kind of refocus, and now they appear to be at their best. In terms of, actually, before we talk Texas, in terms of Ohio State weakness, smash the numbers in the chat. Says Joel Klatt's boa constrictor metaphor applies. If you smash OSU for 4 quarters, you can win. If you try to out finesse them, you will lose. Deep down, OSU is soft. You have to break them. I don't know if I agree with OSU being soft. That my issue with that statement is it's not untrue, but the if you can, if you smash them, you can, like, the if you
They're
smash,
not
it's
built.
not that easy.
Michigan is a physical team.
And
Texas
Michigan is
not
kind of
that.
singular in terms of culture, yes,
Yep.
and how they and how they've, because it's not just it's as much mental with Michigan, Ohio State at this point as it is physical.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Texas has those same advantages. Like, I don't see a team left in this playoff that can just smash Ohio State. Like, I feel you, that's probably the better path to success, but I just don't think it's that easy. And when I look at this Ohio State team the last 2 games, I don't think they look very soft.
No.
You know?
But I also think, we all know this. Like, but go back to that game versus Michigan. Like, they tried for some reason to be that physical team to prove their manliness. And I'm not.
That's true. Yeah,
I don't think they're a soft. They're not a soft football team. They're not Michigan, but Michigan's also has built this mindset and culture that is ultra physical at the lines of scrimmage. Like, that's how they win football games. Like, they're on the one extreme end of the spectrum. Ohio State doesn't need to be on that side of the spectrum to be considered a team that's not soft. I think they're a physical team. I think they're very physical on defense. I think they try and be physical in the way they run the football, but also you have to play to your strengths, and that's what they've done. You laid out the numbers beautifully, T. They have thrown the football. They have said, Will Howard, you are the main guy on this offense, along with Jeremiah Smith. We'll lean on that. And then guess what it did? It opened up the run game to let Judkins and Henderson do their thing. So it's not run to pass, it is pass to run. And for 2 straight games, it has caused them to, and most people believe, that this is the best team in the country with that recipe. They did not do that versus Michigan. They should have. They'll do that versus Texas, which is why they'll win.
They're like a UFC fighter who just tried to stand and bang with someone who is only known for standing and banging, where maybe it was like grappling or something. That would have been more their style. They played it in Michigan's hands, to your point. Also, that pass to run bit is interesting because they're the only team left in the playoff that applies to. Okay, so that's a lot about Ohio State. Let's talk about Texas. And the only reason why I worry for Texas here is because right now, and I've played a lot of video games in my life, so I filter everything through a video game lens. Texas is like the final boss of a game that has a giant glowing weak spot. Now, not everybody's able to hit the weak spot, but if you can, you make them falter significantly. You stagger them. And it's all about, can Texas run the ball? Against Clemson, why was that game not even close? I would say not even close. 292, 6.1 yards per carry. It makes Quinn's life infinitely easier. It sets up play action, which Quinn is a lead at. It just makes everything work. But then 53 yards for 1.8 per against Arizona State. And lo and behold, you saw what happened. How did Georgia beat them both times? Exactly like that. They held Texas to under 2 yards a carry, put the game in Quinn's hands, and he would make enough mistakes. Ohio State is a top 5 rush defense in the entire country. I get very worried for Texas. They'll be able to run the ball. And then when you put it in Quinn Ewers' hands, for some reason, I just feel like I would almost guarantee a Caleb Downs pick. Even if I don't even know what his stats are in the season pick wise, but I just feel it in my bones that that's coming this game.
So this is going to be the second best defense they've faced all season long. And, Georgia being the other one, and I don't want to say second best, this is probably the best. Ohio State's defense is better than Georgia's defense. And Georgia showed you what you can do when you can stop the run. I mean, it's right there for you. If you can stop the run, they can't move the football consistently. They can't get in the end zone. It happened twice versus the Dog. So, and one time was at home, and this game's going to be in Texas. It should be a heavy Texas fan favorite in this football game, but still, this is going to be a game in which Quinn has to be elite. Quinn has to go, 27 of 36 for 4 touchdowns and 350 yards and no interceptions. Like, this is his moment right here. This is Quinn's moment. This is his moment to be the Quinn Ewers that I thought, and Texas fans thought, that he could be to start the season. It has been very sporadic, his play this year due to injury at times and just maybe not being as good as we thought he was. But he has to bring it. Like that is, you say Will Howard's the key to the game. Like Quinn is the key to the game. You can say the running game is and isn't. Texas will not be able to run the ball consistently. Let's just say it right now. We can say that like run games the thing that's going to make it happen, but do we truly believe they're going to be able to run the football? No. Okay, like let's be honest.
No, I don't.
Being able to run the football, I doubt it's going to happen. So like let's just get rid of that narrative. Quinn has to be elite throwing the football if they want to have a chance.
Okay, look. So a lot of people in chat are talking about how like, oh, what Texas is a physical team. If we said Texas is a physical team, that's not what we meant. What we're saying is Texas is not night and day more physical than Ohio State.
No.
They're very evenly matched up. What I'm saying is you can't just be like, oh, well, Texas just needs to rely on their physicality and they can out tough Ohio State. I don't find that to be true is all I'm saying. They're obviously both physical teams. They're both elite on both lines of scrimmage. Okay, advantages for Texas, Aaron. Travel is on Texas side. I don't know how much. But I'm being serious with this.
Okay, yeah.
Especially in the day and age in college football where guys aren't used to this. I was thinking about today. This would be pretty fucking exhausting if you're one of these college kids. You're not used to this shit. You're traveling every single week. You're staying at hotels for multiple days throughout that week. You're getting ready for the biggest games of your lives. Very mentally taxing as well. I mean, Texas played at home. Texas played in Atlanta. And now they're playing 200 miles from Austin. In fact, if you look at the total travel up to this point, Penn State will be at over 3,400 miles. Notre Dame will be over 2,200 miles. Ohio State, 3,200 miles. Texas, just 1,000.
Yeah.
So the kind of traveling lift has not been nearly the same as Texas. And then potentially, although Ohio State fans always shock me with how they travel, potentially maybe a heavy Texas crowd. What do you think? Would you think so?
I would say at least 60% Texas.
I would be shocked if it got above 60%.
Really?
I think there might be. Yeah. I mean, I've seen now. Granted, it was New Orleans, so maybe Dallas is different. Weather's going to be insane with the polar vortex. But like, I remember the 07 Natty against Ohio State, thinking, okay, that'll be like heavy LSU, and it was 50-50.
Oh damn!
Stadium. So I don't know. I think it'll be.
I think there's a new. It's amazing how far or how fast we've moved away from the Ryan Day hate and the game versus Tennessee, in which Tennessee fans had 30,000 fans in the stadium. Like it was crazy how much orange was there in Columbus. I think the fans now are like, holy shit, like we are the best team in the country. Holy shit, we are going to win a national championship. So I would, yeah, they're going to travel, but I would still lean a little bit more Texas. Because once again, you have to think as an Ohio State fan, we believe we are going to win this football game. I would rather save up the money to go to the national championship.
Maybe so.
There's that part of it too.
This is just.
I think the fan had to pay. Now, Ohio State fans just had to pay to go to California. That's a hell of a flight. That's a lot of money to go to the Rose Bowl, to pay for a hotel in there. Now they're going to have to go to Texas, and then they're going to have to go to Atlanta. Like that's just pick your spots. I think you pick the Rose Bowl because it's the Rose Bowl, and obviously the game against Oregon. I think they feel pretty confident that they're going to win this game. I mean, me personally, I'd be saving my money for Atlanta. Because what does a win in this game do for you?
What do you mean?
As a fan, I mean, like winning in the Rose Bowl is pretty sexy. Winning the Cotton Bowl is awesome because you help your team advance. But like 2 to 3, I'm picking Rose Bowl. I'm picking Natty. I think there's going to be people.
So maybe we end up with a very pro Texas crowd then, and that could be a big advantage there, as we've seen this year in college football. Home field advantage matters a ton. Mm-hmm. I think that. I'm trying to think about final points on Texas that I maybe haven't. Again, I think the secondary has to play the game of the season. They definitely have the most talent of anybody else to be able to keep up. Maybe Notre Dame would if they were fully healthy, but to be able to keep up with those weapons that Ohio State has, and then offensively, I mean, that's the thing. You ran the ball. I mean, so there's some talk of the Michigan game earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Like Texas fucking dominated Michigan up front that game. It's one of the reasons why we became
I
so
think
over the.
Michigan's a team though that was so young early in the
No,
season. Let's not forget
yes, I agree.
Michigan. I mean, Michigan had an incredible end of the season. So, like, I don't want to compare what Michigan was week 2 when they had to replace like 15 plus starters on their entire football team. Like, their entire roster left for the NFL last year, and don't forget their head coach did too. Okay, it
I
wasn't going to be the
agree.
same. They
I
got better
agree.
during the season.
I agree, but it is a data point that has to be mentioned.
Yeah, I agree.
Because Ohio State did lose to Michigan, Texas beat the fuck out of them.
Yep.
But I agree with you. I mean, Michigan got way better at everything else. So, but like, can you scheme up some of that rushing success that you had early on that really set Quinn up at the beginning of that game? Also, to your point, that's when Quinn was at his best. That game.
I think that to me that was the biggest thing.
From the first
Quinn
drive,
was
he was on point
drive.
in that game.
Quinn in that football game, I just gave you the stats what he needs to do in this game. He was 24 of 37. I said 25 of 36. 250, 3 touchdowns, no picks. So he had the game that I said he needs to have versus Ohio State. He had that game versus Michigan. Can he do it again?
All right. It is time to pick. Although it feels very chalky and it feels a bit prisoner of the moment, I just can't bring myself to overthink this one. With the Ohio State team that we've seen through playoff games, they look like clearly the most complete team. I think they have the better quarterback, and they don't have the glaring weakness that we've seen out of Texas. So I don't know what I would play gambling wise. I think Ohio State's favored by 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Michigan could keep it close, certainly, but I cannot get away from picking the Buckeyes here. I think Ryan Day continues this get out of jail free run and goes to the Natty.
Just like there's momentum in games, there's momentum in seasons. And yes, Texas is a Final Four team, but it was very shaky to get here. Even the Clemson game at times seemed like Clemson was going to make that an interesting game in the fourth quarter. Arizona State game, like it has not been smooth sailing as the game before that. They lost to Georgia. Right now, Ohio State is playing with confidence. And I think that confidence, obviously coupled with the elite playmakers on both sides of the football, I think they win this football game. And I would take the 6 points too.
If Texas does win, one thing I think you could expect, Aaron, red zone defense. Like you said, that's skill, and that's something that in all the big games this year, whether it's coming up with a big stop against Arkansas, coming up with a big stop against Clemson, coming up with a big stop against Arizona State, red zone defense has consistently shown up when Texas has needed it most. So something to watch for. Oh, well, I'd say that was informative and fun. If you agree, please hit the like button, sub, and we'll see you next time for some more snaps.